3:51 is our time right now. Well, a coalition of animal rights groups says it's getting the regulatory runaround, and, they're getting frustrated. Downright frustrated, they say. The group is called People for Dogs, and they're upset that the government has not yet acted on its call to end the permanent tethering and penning of dogs. And the group's Scott Saunders joins us on the phone here this afternoon. Hi, Scott.
Good afternoon, Rick.
How you doing, sir?
Not too bad. I'd be a lot better if the dogs that are permanently chained in backyards around the province weren't.
Yeah, and what is it with the government that they're not acting on this? Have you received an explanation at all?
Not to date, no. We haven't, and we feel like we're starting to get the runaround here. But I think if you ask most veterinarians or dog behavioralists, isolation leads to long-term and often permanent psychological damage and behavioral problems. And permanently tethered and penned dogs account for the vast majority of fatal dog bites. There's been a number of studies, some by the American Veterinary Medical Association, focusing on aggression in confined dogs, and their findings are often the victims are usually children and commonly bitten in the face.
Yeah, well, we've talked about that. There was an incident over the weekend. Now, I don't think this dog was tethered or penned, but there was a severe bite on a 4-year-old child who required surgery, and now there's a discussion about whether this dog should be put down. How widespread is this tethering issue, do you think?
Well, I think that a lot of people like to believe that it's not happening in urban areas and it's strictly a rural issue, and it's really not the case. There are permanently tethered dogs in HRM, and if you do a quick search on Kijiji, often you'll find ads that will prove just that. And in an email received by a member of the general public just about a year ago, the executive director of the Nova Scotia SPCA said provincial legislation lacks regulation. Yet the Minister of Agriculture just last week said that he has very open dialogue with the Nova Scotia SPCA, and they haven't raised the issue. And I think the big issue comes down to what is the definition of distress. And I know I personally think that a dog that is chained outside 24/7, 365 is obviously prone to distress, if not in distress.
Yeah, really. And I'm reading here on your release that you're quoting a lady who says that 271 chained dogs were reported to the Nova Scotia SPCA last year, and that she suspects that the majority of them are still on the chain, preparing to battle another winter. So how can we go a whole year with that number of complaints, and yet nothing seems to have been done about it?
That's an excellent question, Rick, and we are definitely trying to get to the bottom of it. A lot of people may think that we're extreme, but chaining a dog permanently, especially in extreme weather, that's extreme if you ask me. I don't understand for the life of me why people own dogs if they're going to chain them in their backyard as some kind of lawn ornament.
Well, and I'm a dog owner myself, and I wouldn't think twice about leaving my dog out for any length of time.
And one quick thing I did want to mention, too, is there's obviously a lot of pit bull talk there today.
Yeah.
And as an owner myself of a rescued pit bull with behavioral problems for over 4 years, we've likely had probably over 500 different people into our home. We've never had any issues. Would we still be talking about this issue in the media if it was a golden retriever attack?
Well, and I believe I saw a stat once that said the majority or the vast majority of bites, or the dog breed that bites humans the most, are poodles.
I'm not surprised. I think it comes down to responsible pet ownership, and I mean, that does tie in with the tethering there, and people that are going to tie their dogs out 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, how can they not expect that dog to have some sort of issue?
Yeah. Back to this pit bull for a second, and the owner or the father of the girl that was bitten is suggesting that the dog needs to be put down. What's your stand on those things?
Well, I definitely think there's an issue. I think they need. I personally don't know a lot about the situation. Obviously, there's an issue that surrounding the dog bite itself. Finding out why that dog bit that child. Was the dog afraid? Is this an aggressive dog? I think they definitely need to do a behavioral assessment by somebody who's qualified to really determine what the underlying issue is. But, we have to have responsible pet owners, and we also have to have responsible parents. I have to say that too.
Well, do we need mandatory training for pit bull owners, for example?
I think we need mandatory training for all dog owners myself. A pit bull, it has a bad name because as soon as something happens, it's in the media. As soon as something happens with a Yorkie Terrier, a Chihuahua, a Poodle, like you talked about there, we tend not to hear about it. To be honest with you, I've never had a more loyal dog and loving dog than our little pit bull. I never for the life of me thought that we would have her, or that breed, but, it was a rescue situation that came up, and we were not going to discriminate. And those people that stand back and say, oh, it's the pit bull, or it's this breed or that breed, it's no different than them standing back and saying it's a black person or a white person. As far as I'm concerned, it's racist.
Scott Saunders, as always, I appreciate your time, sir. Thanks a lot.
Have a great afternoon.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye. That's Scott Saunders, and he is with the group People for Dogs, calling on the provincial government to get its act together and pass a law banning the tethering and penning 24/7 of these animals. All right, 2 minutes before the top of the hour.